Raise your hand if you know someone who's quit drinking recently. Okay, now raise your other hand if you know someone who drinks every weekend. Okay, now raise the roof for this TED Talk, yo! All right. So the reason why nearly every hand in this room just went up is because alcohol is having a cigarette moment. Just like smoking used to seem so glamorous until the science became impossible to ignore, we're having a similar culture shift around booze. And I'm one of the people at the center of it. My name is Stephanie Styll, and now you know everything about me. but um, I own a retail store called Kill Toy. It looks just like a liquor store. We have towering shelves of beer, wine, spirits, and ready to drink cans, but with one twist: everything is alcohol free. Over the past 3 years, we've hosted 175 alcohol free events, and we host a podcast where we hear stories from folks about how much better their lives are post alcohol. And here's what I've learned: our cultural obsession with booze isn't just impacting our health, it is quietly blocking our growth, and it's keeping us from leveling up in clarity, in connection, and in joy. Think about how we've been programmed to see alcohol. For decades, we've heard slogans like drink responsibly and know when to say when, which sound positive, but they're cleverly shifting the blame. If something goes wrong, the problem wasn't the alcohol itself. No, it's you. You just don't know how to do it right. The reality is, alcohol is one of the most addictive and harmful substances that's out there. Science now says there's no safe level of use, and it's been directly linked to 7 types of cancers. Despite this, about 60% of adults drink on a regular basis. And I'm pretty sure I know all of them since I was one of its most enthusiastic supporters, enjoying my life pretty dang hard on a regular basis. And with alcohol in the picture, I had a great life. I lived overseas for 14 years and I had so many big adventures. I drank sake in Tokyo, wine in Italy, beer in Prague. You get it. I am a person who wants to do everything that life has to offer. I want to touch the edges of human experience. And I thought alcohol helped me to do that. And thanks to my subconscious beliefs about its awesomeness, I was able to ignore some pretty big red flags: blackout nights, staying out till 3 a.m. before an important workday, getting the word rude tattooed inside my lip. These things were just funny, cute, like no big deal. But the hangovers, the shame, and the lack of sleep, those were real. And eventually I faced the facts. Sadly, booze was not the magical elixir I believed it to be. This realization led me to become sober curious, meaning I just started to wonder, what would life look like without alcohol? And so I would go a month or two here or there taking breaks, but I would always come back to it for some big event or just because I wanted to fit in. I kept thinking of all the things I would miss out on if I quit drinking for good: fun nights out with friends, toasts at weddings, wine tastings in Europe or in Italy. During this time, I immersed myself in books, podcasts, and sober social media, mostly because I didn't know anybody who didn't drink. And this had the effect of slowly starting to remove that programming that had been locked in there my entire life. And then I learned about how alcohol hijacks the brain's reward systems. And this pretty much ruined it for me, and now I'm gonna ruin it for you. Okay. So, because the dopamine rush you get from drinking alcohol is so much stronger than natural sources, it actually changes your set point for feeling good. That impacts your ability to feel pleasure overall. So, because that rush is so powerful, kind of makes everything else pale in comparison. For example, let's say you've never drank alcohol and you're sitting there watching this beautiful sunset. You might feel this surge of peace and contentment filling you with happiness. Now, let's say you drink on a regular basis. That same sunset might seem pretty, meh, you know? Unless you're watching it with a glass of wine. Yeah, this took me a while to process. It meant I'd spent 20 years drinking alcohol to make things fun, and that was the reason why things weren't fun. I let alcohol steal my joy and then sell it back to me at a markup. And I'm not the only one. This isn't just my story. This is our cultural story. Alcohol is so deeply embedded into the nooks and crannies of our society that it's honestly difficult to even zoom out enough to see how absurd it is that we use an intoxicating substance to enjoy life's everyday moments. This isn't just about hangovers. This is about human potential and all that we lose when we let alcohol run the show. Whew, so the implications of this were clear to me and terrifying. I knew if I really wanted to expand my joy, if I really wanted to lead that big life, I had to stop drinking completely. And so, after years of resisting, I finally surrendered. I let my mind and my identity shift. And I learned to see quitting not as a downgrade or a deprivation, but as an upgrade, as my next big adventure. And this mindset, it worked. I just celebrated 5 years alcohol free. Yeah. One of the first things I noticed after I quit was how much more connected to my intuition I felt. And what's fascinating is when I watch people socialize at Killjoy events, that's what I notice about them more than anything, how intuitive they are. People know when to lean into a conversation, when to pull back, when to show up for other people, and when to hold space for themselves. Alcohol dulls that inner compass, but without it, our intuition turns back on. And that is a real level up. That is where deep and sustainable joy starts to seep in. It's trusting yourself, listening to your gut, and bravely following. One of the ways that I did that was by starting to host alcohol free parties in January of 2023. Hosting these events brought me so much joy. I was living with purpose. I felt aligned in a way that I had never felt before. And the parties, they were awesome. They were actually more fun because people showed up as themselves, fully present, quick witted, vulnerable, and punctual. And if you think that drinking makes you funnier or quicker, try going to a drunken event, stone cold sober. You're going to find out the truth real fast. Alcohol doesn't make people wittier, it just makes them spittier. But here's the more important part. Alcohol doesn't just make nights messy. It can actually prevent us from developing leveling up skills that we were supposed to learn. There's two in particular: social courage and inner clarity. Social courage is the ability to walk into any room, strike up a conversation, and connect for real. It's like your permission slip to let your real self shine through in any situation. And inner clarity, that is the act of sitting by yourself in the quiet moments and asking yourself, who am I? What matters most to me? And then listening to what your soul is truly longing for. Alcohol hijacks both of these. It convinces us we can't connect without it. And then it fills the very time and space when reflection could be happening, and we stagnate. On weekdays, the average American spends only 26 minutes communicating or socializing. That's it. Less than 30 minutes for conversation, connection, and friendship. And what do we do with that little sliver of time that we get to ourselves? We just hand it straight over to booze or to our phones. How much more healing, restorative, or proactive could that time be? Alcohol is outdated technology. Literally. There are amazing alternatives out there that taste great. Some even give you a little buzz, and they won't punish you later. And figuratively, it's like running your life on Windows 1.0. We keep telling ourselves we can't have fun without it, but just like software, it's time for an upgrade. And how we talk about it matters. Language drives culture, and culture drives behavior. We've seen it over and over again. Take food, for example. When we called it vegetarian, sounded like something you had to give up. But call it plant-based, and now it sounds aspirational, modern, even premium. The same is true for alcohol. There's a lot of stigma around the word sober and alcoholic. I personally like to call myself alcohol-free, or AF, which feels fun and edgy to me. Instead of mocktails, we call them zero-proof cocktails, or functional beverages. Begone stigma. We are now stylish, sophisticated, and providing added value. This is not about what you're losing. It's about what you're choosing. And language doesn't just describe reality, it creates it. So call it what you want. This is not a life of deprivation. This is an upgrade, a life optimized for joy. And all of those things I was afraid to lose when I quit, they're still here. Fun nights out with friends still happen, and I have more friends than ever. There are deep belly laughs, vulnerable conversations, and a lot more ice cream, honestly, which I'm not mad about. I still toast at weddings. I just use alcohol-free wine. And I recently even did a de-alcoholized wine tasting at a vineyard in Germany. It was glorious. Believe me, I'm the last person who would have thought that quitting drinking would be the spark to ignite the magic in the mundane of my life. But it's true. And you don't need alcohol to enjoy sunsets, birthdays, weddings, Tuesdays, TED Talks, or to grow the skills that make life feel big. You just need yourself, present, connected, and optimized for joy. Thank you.